Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the podcast. I am so honored today because I have my internet friend and deathcare sister, Miss Lashanna Williams, with me today. Lashauna, say hi and just tell everybody about all the amazing stuff that you do.
Hello. First, I want to say thank you. Thank you for asking to spend time together because time together is super fun. And there's no place on a Wednesday morning that I could imagine being more excited to be. So thank you. Um,
Thank you for joining me.
yeah. I am out here in Seattle, and I get to be a massage therapist and a death doula, and a community activist and educator. I kind of just a doer. Um, I think that's it. Like I just kind of do. If I'm put in a situation and there's things that I can offer, I do. And in this chunk of my life, um, I'm working really hard to grow access to care at the end of our life, and focusing on the ways that people are cared for and people aren't cared for, and why there are people who aren't cared for when we have such lavish ways of caring for people in this country. And so I'm focusing that on that, like right now in this chunk of my days.
Awesome, Lashana. So I know we met last year through Alua Author when we did the Saying It Louder panel, which turned into the Shifting Death Care course. And I feel like we all kind of got to, well, at least for me, I feel like I got to know you guys really fast in a really short amount of time, because we just had like this kindred spirit about what needed to be said about issues around race and death, right? So I don't think I've ever asked you, how did you come to even do death care work?
Can I talk about us like meeting too?
Yes, please, please.
Oh, because that felt like magic. Like as cold as the internet is, and like where we all were coming from, and the moods we were all in, and the feelings we were feeling, and like I'm gonna cry to be in a space that we made to have those initial conversations. I think were such a radical act of self-love and self-care to understand like I need to be in a space where I know I'm safe. And we made that for each other. And I think that the ways that our relationships have like grown and intertwined and like just encouraged each other, it's great. I love it. I have little goosebumps, and my heart, I feel like, is so intertwined with just such love energy with all six of us. Um, Such a fun group of humans. So, okay, park that. Um, I started doing death care just by caring in my massage work. I was working with a bunch of folks who were older, and I just was noticing the ways that people weren't touched. When I would come into a space, it was like, oh, shoulders would fall down, and medical interactions were always very one way, and people were like taking a temperature, touching something to feel, getting some kind of information. And there was there wasn't often like just touch given to people. And it sat with me really uncomfortably, because if you couldn't afford to hire the massage therapist to come in, or there wasn't a volunteer massage therapist in your neighborhood, who came to touch you? And that sat really funky with me. And so I just started doing more body work, and then I volunteered with hospice. And one day my friend was like, oh, let's go take a birth doula class. And I was like, okay, only because it's you and I get to spend time with you. Like, I'm not going to be a birth doula. And she was like, "Oh, you'd be great." Da, 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 da. And I was like, we're at lunch with a teacher friend of ours, and we're telling her we're gonna look at courses, and our teacher looks at me, and she was like, like, "I'm gonna be real honest with you. I don't see you as a birth doula." I was like, "Me either." Oh my God. I would just be like, I don't even know. I don't even know where my patients would come from. And she says, "There's death doulas." And I was like, "Huh? Like, what even, like, what do you mean?" And then I looked at the school up in Bellingham, which was a sacred passing. And that's my dog, who doesn't like the neighbor that throws a ball against our fence. Sorry.
We love animals here. Don't
Okay.
apologize.
That is Walter. Um, and I studied under Ashley and a sacred passing. And then eventually she wound up giving me the nonprofit. And then we do the things. But it started with touch.
Wow. That's so amazing. I mean, that whole story is amazing. And I think kudos to that instructor who was honest with you and saying, I do not see you doing this, because so many times we try to put ourselves in these boxes, right? I have to be this, I have to do that. I'm very guilty of that myself in the past. But how important is touch when someone is transitioning, especially now with COVID? I mean, last year, that was like the biggest thing. We weren't able to, like, I live alone. I didn't
Yeah.
touch anyone else for months, and I didn't realize how important that was just in everyday life. But how much more important is that when someone's transitioning?
I think it depends on the person, how important touch was in their life and how safe touch was in their life. Some people, it can be really welcoming, and they want to be held and they want to be swaddled and close and tight, and other people don't even come close to me. I need space. I don't want hands on me. Like, I need air on my body, not a lot of blankets. So it really depends on the person. When touch is consensual and welcome, I think it's one of the most healing things that we can offer ourselves and share with someone else. I think it, like, just in the tissues and in the fabric of us, like, we need touch. And the current culture of Western United States is not about touch. Like, there's all these rules in organized religion around, like, what is okay and what's not and when it's okay. And so from a really, really young age, all kinds of folks from all kinds of faith backgrounds are raised with a little bit of shame around touch. Touch is for certain people, not for me. Instead of learning a consensual touch and, like, what is okay, what is not okay. And so with that, like, touch is not for me, we don't ever learn how to just touch non-sexually. It's always sexual. And so, like, we miss out, and I say we because I'm talking really overarchingly in a way that I shouldn't be, but this country doesn't teach people how to touch in a non-sexual way. And that is, like, it's the best. Like, being in a situation where there are no sexual there's no thoughts of sex, and there's such love and touch, and, like, in your tissue you feel the hug, or you feel the pressure and the weight of someone, like, just cuddling you, close to you. The hormones naturally released in our body have been proven to make us happier and healthier. But I think on another level, it makes us happier and healthier. Yeah, I don't know. I could talk on and on about touch. What do you think about touch?
That's powerful. I had a thought this morning. When I met you and the other ladies, I was going through a breakup, and you guys really supported me through that. And thank you for that. I don't know if I've ever said thank you, but thank you for that. But I had the thought this morning that for almost 6 years, I slept next to someone. And for the first time this morning, thinking about you and what I kind of wanted to talk a little bit about today, it hit me. I miss not,
Mm-hmm.
you know, of course, the sex and everything, but just being close to someone at night, and waking up with that safety of someone being there. What do you ever have conversations about losing that with families when you're helping their loved one transition? How do you prepare them mentally for that void?
Mm, I don't know that there's, I don't really know that there's any adequate prepping. I just think that we can talk about it. And it really depends on where I get to come into that relationship with at. If it's early enough, then we can have talks about sexual health, emotional health. Like, where are our boundaries? If your lover is experiencing like a memory decline, at what point can you two agree on now that it's okay for the other partner to seek emotional support, sexual support, like outside of this relationship? Having those conversations with people are something that I really, really, that I do. Um, the looks on folks' face sometimes when I'm like, okay, are we comfortable with a conversation about sexual health? And they're like, uh, yeah. And then, oh shit, okay, we're going to talk about this. And it's something that most folks haven't even given themselves permission to think about. And so it's like, okay, we thought about it this time. We'll talk about it next time. We'll talk about it again next time. It takes a little bit to get there. But those are the conversations that we start to have. And if someone has the ability to build a little web of support, sexual, non-sexual support around them, that is where those folks come in after that. But a real, like, the loss of physical touch is something that people who have lost their partners immediately talk about often.
It's so funny because I watched The Notebook for the first time like 2 weeks ago.
I've
And
not seen it.
you have to see it. Like, I intentionally didn't watch it because that was everybody's response, but my friends like tricked me into watching it. So I watched it. And
I
not to
love
give
it.
away too much of the movie because you haven't seen it, but there's a scene where one of the main characters is in bed with a lover, and they have the physical connection, they have the sexual connection, but his heart belongs to someone else. And he says to her, what it is that you need, I can't give you. And fast forward into the film, his true love shows up again and is at the house. And the woman who he was in bed with in the previous scene shows up, and they meet each other. And they're like, I've heard so much about you. Thank you basically for holding this space for me. God bless you on your journey. And I just felt like
Yeah.
that was so mature and so adult of them. And it makes me think about when people lose their partners, their lovers, the wives, husbands, whatever the term is, they're comfortable with having. And then someone else comes into that space,
Yeah.
filling that void with touch doesn't necessarily mean that emotional void is filled, right?
Yeah.
Have you had conversations with families after someone's passed away about that? And how do you navigate that?
I personally don't. I refer out for grief work. Like, I will, yeah, like I will still hang out and be there for them. But for that sort of processing, I much prefer to sit down, let's have an art project and we can talk. But that work is really, grief work is really specific. And I think that folks, like, I have a crew of grief workers around here to like refer people to. Um, yeah, it is not the switches bag. It kind of pulls back to, though, like the ways that our like 2-person relationship setup isn't functional, and isn't how we're supposed to live. Like, living in these tiny little micro families is not how anybody has ever lived. Like, in for centuries, people have lived in groups, and for us to think that it's healthy for us to be so siloed and like doing everything ourselves is a product of white supremacy training. Like, that's not for us. And if we weren't living like this, we would have the emotional support already built in. Like, it would be interwoven. And there's that hole, or that nothing fills, right? Nothing takes that place. But we are interwoven into a safety net of community when we live in a group.
Right. Now, when you say group, are you referring, or not in single families, are you referring to polygamy versus monogamy, or just community?
I think community, like
Community.
it doesn't, like, yeah, like our sexual practices don't have to equate into it. And if we could, like, even just like little pods of humans, people with kids, without kids, just community. How do we grow and strengthen these networks? My partner and I were laughing that we thought everybody should have like a husband and a wife. Everybody should have 2 partners, like, and each partner has 2 partners. So we were just laughing. We're like, we have houses next door to each other that are connected with a bridge. And so we were just laughing at, like, thinking of how we would build other houses that like interwove and like an MC Escher staircase-esque look around our houses. It was a little bit of fun brain play.
That's so interesting. I'm obsessed with polygamy and polyamory, and just the idea that people openly share intimacy and love on that level. I don't necessarily think it's for me, because I get territorial and jealous, but I have so much respect, especially for the women in those type of relationships that share a husband or a male partner, or even a female partner, because I feel like it takes a lot of discipline emotionally and a lot of self reflection and self awareness to say, okay, I'm feeling this way, but I'm doing this for a bigger purpose. But unfortunately, I've never had the opportunity to meet or work with a polygamous or polyamory family. Have you?
Yeah.
You have?
Yeah.
What
Well,
was that like?
I don't think that they would give themselves those labels, but I've worked with like what folks would call like a traditional family. Yeah.
Right.
I think it's just like any other family, that it's just about communication. Like, it doesn't, when families are healthy and working, like, their structure is almost irrelevant unless you're talking about legalese. That's a whole other ball of wax, right? Like, if we're just
Right.
talking about emotions, there's no difference. You have more humans in the room, and you have more love, and I
Right.
mean more stress, more all of the other things. But the legalese is where you have to really hold those people you're working with differently, and make sure that their rights are protected in the law, because the law isn't looking out for them. And so a lot of times it means having special paperwork drawn up to make sure that everybody has access in health and medical situations, and everybody has financial access, and everybody is on the house, and like making sure all of that stuff is in order. that also is not something that I do. Like, that's for lawyers.
Right.
But I know, I'm like, but you gotta go get your shit together, like, how do we figure that out? I know enough to be like, go do that.
Right.
I can do the healthcare directive side, but all of that other stuff, which is really, really important,
Yes.
because, I mean, people, you can lose a lot when the paperwork isn't done right. Right.
That's very true. Um, that's one thing I love about you, Lashauna. You're just like so open-minded. And every time I talk to you, I just feel like my mind just expands to the point where I'm like, okay, I got to sit with this for a second. Um, I know that you are an advocate for death with dignity.
Mhm.
Is that the correct term for it? Can you talk a little bit about what that is and educate listeners that may not be familiar with what that
Yeah.
is?
Yeah. I use the word medical aid in dying. Most people do refer to it as death with dignity, but I feel like there are so many dignified ways to die, that we need to change that language, and it's a medical aid in dying. And so what that is here in Washington State, we have it is legal for someone with a terminal illness, to end their life, and we have a prescription that they, once approved for, they can ingest, that eventually will stop their heart. It's it's not something that is like super easily accessible. You have to you have to have two medical providers, one that will consult and confirm your diagnosis, and another one who will prescribe the medicine for you. You also have to know where to go to have the prescription filled, because it's a compounded prescription, and so they take everything and they'll grind it up so it's a powder. Back in the day, there used to be, like, you'll hear stories of people opening pill capsules. Well, now we just it's a compounded powder, and folks will mix that with a little bit of liquid. Back in the day, folks used to have to open pills and, like, empty capsules,
Mm.
but they don't have to do that anymore. In Canada, they have the option to have an injection, and
Okay.
it's immediate. But we don't have that here in the States. I think
Okay.
there are 11 states that have medical aid in dying approved. So, not too many. And in the states that it is legal, there's still an immense access issue, because so many medical facilities and medical practitioners are operating under religiously affiliated medical organizations that
Okay.
they can't even tell people that it's an option. So if
Mm.
someone is in excruciating pain, and even if they say, I really want to die, can't you just kill me, doc? The doc can't even say, well, actually, we have a law in this state called da 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 da, or reach out to this organization called End of Life Washington. Maybe they'll help you.
Right.
They don't say anything. And the majority of our medical institutions are run by religiously affiliated folks. So people don't have access, and when they finally do hear about us, and that the law actually exists, and that they can access it, often it's late. It's too late, and they don't
Mm.
make the 15-day waiting period. So it's a bummer.
So there has to be a 15-day waiting period between when you're approved for the medical aid in dying and when you actually receive the medication?
Yeah. So if everything goes without a hitch, like, you have your doctors, you get your appointments, and Before COVID, these were in-office appointments
Okay.
for people. So like there was no telehealth for people who were like dying. So
Terminally
now people
ill
can
in pain and agony, having to be transported to a medical facility.
twice,
Wow.
right? So now we have telehealth. I am so thankful. I
You
am
can
so
curse.
thankful.
It's okay.
Okay.
It's
Like,
okay.
shoot. I swore on the radio last week, and the person looked at me, and I was like, "Oh!" I almost double swore too, because I almost was like,
Oh
"Shit."
shit. I didn't mean it. I get it. It's okay. You can speak freely here.
Oh shoot. I even forgot where we were. Sorry.
We were talking about the 15-day waiting period and how the
Oh,
patient
thank
has
you.
to go to 2 appointments.
Yeah. So you have a first oral request with your doctor, and then you can start the 15-day waiting period between, and in between that time you have another appointment with a doctor. You have a written request that has to happen. You see a prescribing physician. The prescription has to be written, and you have to pick it up. It has to be paid for, and then you pick it up. And if all of that happens super smooth, it could happen in 15 days. 15 days is thinking that is generous. It's generous. It's more like 20.
Wow.
Yeah.
Is it expensive, Lashauna?
It is. It's depending on the pharmacy that you go to. It could be between $750 and $1,000.
Wow.
There is some really, really good work being done right now to get insurance companies to cover that cost for folks who want it. Because right now, people who have the money, they get it. They don't have to think twice. There's definitely grants, and there are other ways for people to access the medication who can't pay the money. But it's not out there in public, and it's often something that people won't ask for. And so immediately they're like, oh, well, I can't afford that prescription. I'm not going to do this. And they stop investigating. So if we were able to let them know that it's paid for, or it's included in your insurance coverage, something, people would be more likely to then learn what their options were if it was going to be accessible.
What what is the cause of death listed on death certificates for individuals who opt for medical aid in dying?
In the state of Washington, it's whatever their terminal illness was.
Okay. Do you find that there's guilt or shame or negative feelings for survivors based around societal views of medical aid in dying?
I think that's a really good question for the survivors. There are a couple of support groups that End of Life Washington has for folks who have survived someone who used medical aid in dying, and the feedback from those folks was that in different grief groups, they didn't feel like they could fully share their grief because of the choice that their loved made. So having this group of people who all were connected through medical aid in dying seems to be beneficial for these folks. I will say that I have never participated and been with someone who has chosen medical aid in dying who has had someone in that space who is unsupportive. People may be really sad, really fucking sad, but people have been supportive of the person who is dying.
I can imagine that's such a complex environment on both sides, because on one side you have the person who's passing away. They didn't choose their illness, you know. They didn't choose to be in pain. They didn't choose to have their life changed in that way, but the choice that they do get to make means the difference between suffering or not. And then on the other side, you have the family who also didn't choose this, and they feel like maybe they're losing some sort of control.
Mm.
And at the same time, having to watch their loved one make this decision. That is deep.
It's
That's deep.
intense.
Yeah.
It's intense.
I can't
Last
imagine
week,
watching a loved one suffer and not
yeah,
wanting to give them comfort. You know what I mean?
100%, 100%. Which, so last week I had attended a death, and the gentleman's family was super sad.
What is your, I know this, I don't want to say it's heavy, because I believe that when we're called into this line of work, we have a level
Mm-hmm.
of grace that comes with it, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, we're still human. We go through our own shit. Like, we still lose people. We have bad days. We have PMS. Like, we go through life, you know? How do you take care of yourself in order to just give so freely to those that are either dying or witnessing or losing a loved one?
Mm. Um, I'm not the most amazing self-care human, if I'm really being honest. Um, when I pause, I like to be creative, and so um, I'll make something. I'll make some art. I'll do something that like involves my hands and some creativity. Or I put myself in water. If I put myself in water, I stay there. And electronics and water just don't mix. So I am away from a fucking computer. Um, so water and art, I guess, is the way that I care for myself.
That's beautiful. I imagine, especially with being a someone that's gifted with touch, and I imagine healing hands, your hands are super sensitive. So the fact that you use them to create as well as heal, that's beautiful.
Hmm.
That's beautiful. Do you give special care and attention to your hands? Like, do you go get manicures or do paraffin waxes or anything special with
I
your hands?
just, I just went for a mani pedi with my maxi me this weekend. My maxi me is my 17-year-old. Folks would always say that she was my mini me, and she would look at
Oh,
me like her head was about to explode, and I was like, "Yeah, no, you are nothing. There's nothing mini about you."
she's absolutely gorgeous, by the way, just like her mother. All your kids are gorgeous, Lashauna. You just make
Oh,
gorgeous
thank you.
babies.
I did make some pretty fucking babies. They are gorgeous, and they're good. Like, they're good humans. They could be beautiful as all get out, and if their shit stank, and when their shit stinks, I do tell them.
Yeah.
But I'm thankful they're good humans.
So before I let you go, I want to talk a little bit about your listening line. How did that come to be?
Yeah. So we did. We had a conference in 2019 called Un Bon Mort, and in the conference we created 6 action committees, and one of the action committees was working on creating access to care. And So that was like right before COVID that team sort of formed and started to get to know each other. And then when they were still working together as COVID started, um, we just started thinking about people living alone, people living with people they can't talk to, um, folks accessing care through telehealth if they had insurance. But all these people just being in situations where maybe they didn't have anybody to talk to, or yeah, just not someone to talk to. And we created the listening line. It was pretty interesting. It was like 4 months of organizing and creating a curriculum for volunteers, and figuring out the logistics of the line and how all that works. And then we started a training and started training folks to strengthen their listening skills. And this November, it'll be 1 year. And it's been really amazing. During the winter months, our calls, we had several calls a day. Joelle, as soon as the sun came out, it was like a switch. People
Wow.
were like, people were like, bye. We get like maybe a call every 2 weeks.
Wow. So
Yeah,
I imagine with fall coming up in just over a month, you guys are
yeah.
anticipating that the line will start to blow up again. And that's so interesting that I swear humans are amazing. You just said something and it totally sent my mind in another direction. So I am a person that thrives in the fall, like in the winter months, but I
Mhm.
have several friends that go into like this depression.
Mhm.
Darker outside for longer periods of time.
Yeah. Yeah, for real.
Wow. Isn't it like a term like seasonal depression or something?
Yeah, yeah. It's a thing. I
It's a
live with
real
two
thing.
humans who really experience the seasons dramatically in their body and in their moods.
Really?
Mhm. Yeah.
Wow.
Like the winter can be, unfortunately, like a in this home, it feels like an emotionally dangerous time for the people I love.
Mm.
Um, just because, yeah, like the seasons have such a strong effect on them. Um, I love the summer, but I love the solitude of winter. And so I get on with my like, nope, sorry, not going anywhere. It's winter. It's dark. It's 4 o'clock. I'm ready for bed. Like up
Yeah,
here, it gets dark so early, Joelle, so early. 4 o'clock.
4 o'clock. I can see that because by 6 o'clock here after daylight savings times, I mean it looks like midnight.
Yes,
And I
it's
love it.
ridiculous.
But
what do
like
you
you're saying,
What do you
people
love about
really,
it?
I feel like I thrive in environments where things have died.
Mm.
I can't I don't know how else to explain it. It's quiet,
Mhm. Mhm.
it's still, it's cold, it's perfect for me.
Mhm. Mhm.
I don't like being hot. I don't like sweating.
Yeah.
I love the beauty of the summertime and the spring, but it's just something in me just thrives during that time. I can think a lot
Mhm.
clearer. Um, I feel like I get so much more done. I'm more
Mm.
creative.
Mhm.
And
Are you
like,
saying that you're gonna move up here?
you know what? I might be, I might have to move. I talked to a psychic not too long ago, and she told me, like, you're supposed to live on the West Coast. And I'm like, really? I've only ever been to California. Like, that was like once for 3 days. So I have no like geographical connection. I mean, I know you and Oceana and um, the Allure out on that side of the world. So I know I would know people over there. But yeah, I don't know what it is. What is it that you love about it? Lashana?
I like the weather. I
Yeah.
like the water. The water is what I really like. Um,
Mm.
I I enjoy the growing season. Um, one thing I do like is it feels without a lot of the, like, I grew up in the Midwest, and so I grew up with people telling me what I wanted, and telling me what I needed, and not asking me.
Okay.
And I feel like it's different on the West Coast. Um, People will ask you what you need instead of telling you.
Okay.
And so I feel like I was able to raise my kids differently, um, out here, without the, yeah, without some of the programming that I was given, just because of location and timing, and you know, being born in '79 in Detroit. Like, that's how it goes. Um, yeah, I don't know. It just, it feels good out here.
Wow.
You just got to come out here. Come on.
Yeah, I plan to come visit. Maybe not
Yeah.
this year, next year. But
I know,
and that's so
fucking
funny.
COVID.
I know well, I'm not gonna say it sucks because it's challenging. That's what I'll say.
Mhm. Mhm.
Um, I when I travel places, I grew up in the South. I was born in England and I grew up in South Carolina and I've lived in Georgia for almost 18 years. But when I go places, it feels so different because there's Southern hospitality is really a thing. It's like really a thing.
Mhm.
And when I go other places, I almost feel like something's missing, but it's not that it's missing, it's just different. So I'm interested to see and feel that freedom that you're talking about there.
Mhm. Mhm.
Because here, of course, culturally, we're big on, and I'm pretty sure this happens everywhere, but respecting your elders and
Yeah.
especially for my culture, honoring your ancestors and, being polite and nice, it's just a part of
Mhm.
our culture that doesn't necessarily make it genuine, which I've learned, you know. And I feel like when I go other places, when I meet people that I connect with, it's either genuine or it's not, if that makes
Mhm.
it's
Mhm.
not like politeness. And I appreciate that. But I think I would definitely miss the Southern charm, so to speak. But who knows? Um, Lashana,
Well, I mean, that's that's real. Sorry, you were about to wrap up?
no, 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 go ahead. Go ahead, talk. I want you to talk.
Well, I was raised with all of those things, and so as a parent who has raised a child, like, I felt it was very, very important for both of my kids to understand that people earn love and they earn respect, and you don't just have to give it to them.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it doesn't matter who they are. Like, I feel like, um, in the ways that I gave love and respect, blindly, it was harmful and put me in unsafe situations where I I was, like, I was sexually abused, because of the ways that I thought powers were. And so it's important to me to really let them know, like, you don't have to say yes to anybody because they are anybody. Um, like, make sure they earn your love and they earn your trust. And so that's how they were raised. And I'm going to tell you, as a teenager, I am kicking myself in the ass because I'm like, I'm your mom. You're supposed to just respect me.
Right. I can see that.
But it's good. It's good. It's gonna, like, my son is 20 now, and I'm through that, and I am so thankful that he is grown the way he was grown. My
Mhm.
17-year-old, I gotta, like, get through like the next year because I'm looking at her like, my ancestors taught me to snatch your face off.
Right. I can only
Do you
imagine.
know? For real, like, do you know? She doesn't know, because if she knew, she would like shut up when she's
Right.
getting out of pocket. Because I'm like, you don't even understand. All of my training says I need to snatch your ass up right now, but I
But
don't.
that says a lot about the restraint and the discipline that you have as a parent, Lashauna.
Ooh, well,
That says a
thank
lot
you.
about you.
And
That's kind of amazing that you have that level of restraint.
well, I'm gonna hold on to that. Thank you, Joelle.
Yeah, it does. I'm telling you, because I mean, I've dealt with just people that have made me feel that way and they didn't come out of me. You know what I mean? So kudos
For
to you.
real. Oh, it's the things though, like, when both of them have bucked up and been a kind of way, like it's a way that I think once they understand and hone into a little bit more like have more experience with people and grow a little bit into their maturity, that those qualities are they're gonna do exactly what they need them to do so that they are successful and thriving and healthy. They're just a pain in the ass for the mama.
Hmm. Wow. Wow. So what do your conversations about death look like with your kids? Or what did they look like, especially when they were younger?
When they were younger, they did not like to talk about like us dying at all. Like that was not even a thing. So it was much more our animals, and we talk about life cycles, and so people are just like everything else. And so it was very much like just in nature is how we approached death when they were little.
Okay.
And when people died, we just talked about death. And that, I would say, when they were, let's see, my youngest was probably 12, um, when she made her first like death plan.
Mm.
So yeah, like it takes a little bit of like begging from me to get everybody at the table to update a death plan, and
Okay.
I've had to attach it to my birthday so that
Oh,
on my birthday the four of us are at a table and we update our plans and
that's
have
precious.
conversations.
Mm.
You
Wow.
cut out for a second. What did you say?
I said that's precious.
Mm. It was enlightening. I mean, to listen to hear them talk about like, Mom, you cannot pick out my clothes. This is who needs to do this. This is who needs to do this. Papa, get this music. Like they were really cute and specific with their desires and what they did want and didn't want and what they didn't care about at all. It, it's really interesting.
Mm. Wow. Do you feel as if you have raised your children to function in the world without you?
That's really funny that you say that. Um, about a month ago, we were all having a conversation, and both of the kids just sort of had this air of, okay, I'm making the right decisions. My daughter was telling me about standing up for someone at work who was being talked to, like a manager was talking to them out of pocket, and she just advocated for this person. And so they both just shared stories of them being really good, solid humans. And I was like, damn, okay. Like I literally knew that if I died in this moment, they have the tools and the gifts and the roots that I needed them to have from me. And and that was and that I felt good in. I mean, I have so much more time that I want to spend with them and conversations and all that shit. But like, if I died today, I know that they would have the good stuff from my heart.
Mm, that's beautiful. And
It
as
felt
someone,
good.
go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh no, I was just saying it felt good in the moment. Our delay is something wicked at the moment.
Yeah, I'm sure that feels good. And, I think about that a lot with my parents because, I don't ever want to lose either of my parents, but I would much rather be the one to care for them at the end of their
Yeah.
life than for them to have to care for me. And the thought that brings me comfort is that, they've given me everything that I need. Like I'm able to function in this world because of what them and my community and my tribe has instilled in me. And as someone who wants to have children, I think about that a lot because I see a lot of times where people take possession of their children, especially women.
Mhm.
Yes, they're yours. You had them, but they don't necessarily belong to you. They're their own being, right? And I think when thinking about the type of mother that I want to be, that's always resonated with me. Like I want to be the type of mother that gives my children what they need to be the best people possible and operate with the best
Mm.
intention in this world and the best, I don't want to say the best chances or opportunity because I almost feel like part of it is um destiny. We don't have a
Mhm.
choice in a
Mhm.
part of it, but then the other part is you make your own way.
Yeah.
We're literally manifestors and co-creators with God, and I believe that wholeheartedly. But that's really all you can ask for, in my opinion, as a parent, is to have the opportunity to give them what they need to survive. So
Mhm.
listening to you say that, it warms my heart. And congratulations on that. You've done your job as a mom.
Thank you. Woo.
So before you go, Lashauna, is there anything that you'd like to share? Do you have any upcoming events? Where can the listeners find you and learn more about you? I know you have some amazing offerings as far as training and classes are concerned. Can you share a little bit about that?
Yeah. Um, we have a variety of educational offerings through a sacred passing, and we are on Instagram and I believe it's just a sacred passing on Instagram and a sacredpassing.org. If you check out our website, there's details about our classes, more information about the nonprofit and the work that we do. Um, Also, there's information on the listening line and a place to die, which is the nation's first web of community care homes for people who are choosing medical aid and dying. Um, yeah, so you can find all kinds of information at asacredpassing.org, and also the Good Witch of Cascadia on Instagram. Um, I also will share some stuff up on that outlet. But yeah, you can find out about our classes through both of those channels. Um, yeah, if you are in the state of Washington, also be on the lookout for soul clinics that the African American Health Board is hosting. And if you follow either A Sacred Passing or The Good Witch of Cascadia on Instagram, you'll see some posts from the health board, and you can follow them to hear about events for celebrating the wellness of Black and Brown bodies. I think that's it.
I also want to say that Lashauna makes amazing shea butters and bath
Mm.
salts that she has sent me in the mail on more than one occasion. She actually donated to the birthday giveaway that Little Miss Funeral and I did this year in February. Thank you so much again for that. And
Yes.
do you sell those for the public? Because if you do, y'all need to go run and get some because they are the truth. I still have some of the pause for me that you sent, and I'm holding on to it because I'm like, I don't want to use my last bit, and I need to just go ahead and order some.
Oh, thank you for that. I do. It's those all my plant medicine stuff is up on antareswellness.com. But you can, I think it's linked through the link tree on Good Witch of Cascadia.
And I'll make
But yeah,
sure that
there's salt.
description for this podcast as well.
Okay. Yeah, those
And
goodies are up there.
awesome, awesome, awesome. And funny story, I didn't know South Park was a real place until I saw you post that as your location one time. I thought it just only existed on Comedy Central. Real, like, I didn't know.
So we have a bridge that connects us to the city, and they shut it down for a long time because they didn't put maintenance into it, which left us like it was really really shitty for our tiny neighborhood. But there, someone just drew the biggest picture of Kenny on the side of the bridge when they closed it, and it was just like, oh man, here we are, poor Kenny. They killed the bridge.
They killed the bridge. Wow. Well, thank you, Lashauna, so much for joining me. I love our conversation. I feel like we kind of talked about everything, which is exactly what I wanted. So thank you, thank you, thank you for joining, and we'll talk to you guys next time.
Thank you.